in the Zimbabwean and Zambian context. And we're also going to deal with issues to do with gender and conservation. We are also going to compare environmental justice laws in Zimbabwe and Zambia. And we're also going to discuss the link between poverty and the environment, and how environmental injustice affects people differently. So thank you so much, guys. Our first presenter today is Mr. Launi. Mr. Launi, you can go ahead and share with us your presentation. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Tanya, and thank you very much our audience and my fellow participants for this opportunity which you have accorded to me. All right, so I'm going to share with you environmental justice with a context of Zambia here. The environmental justice which we have, especially I'll dig much on the two aspects that as Zambia we have risen up to defend and support the environment. So I'm going to start with the definition of environmental justice. So this definition is reported by the United States Environmental Protection in the year 2017. So the definition says that environmental justice is a fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of race, color, national origin or income with respect to the development and enforcement of environmental law, regulation and policies. So this is the definition by the United States Environmental Protection. Right. So the first things which I want to explain, it's about two examples in which as a country Zambia, we have defended the environment by concentrating on the Luangwa River as well as the Lower Zambezi National Park. So we are talking about environmental justice, first of all, in the context of Zambia. All right. So with Luangwa River, this is the river here. Hope everyone is able to see. This is the Luangwa River here. And then this is the North Luangwa National Park. This is the South Luangwa National Park. Okay. So this Luangwa River is one of the major tributaries of the Zambezi River and one of the four biggest rivers of Zambia. It's one of the four biggest rivers of Zambia. So now what happened was a dam was actually proposed by a South African firm. The firm it's actually known by the name MDH Solution. So it was a dam was proposed to be built along this river, the Luangwa River, in the eastern part of Zambia. So this project, the project was estimated to generate about 235 megawatts of hydropower to meet the country's growing demand of electricity. So now, despite as I've explained the advantage of this dam to our country, people as a country within Zambia, we rush to say no, this can actually have a very big impact on our environment and our communities as well. So now, how is environmental justice coming in? So the Worldwide Fund in Zambia launched a petition addressed to the president of Zambia, Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, urging him to declare the Luangwa River as a water resource protection area under threat from the proposed dam. Furthermore, 200,000 Zambian people backed the call by signing the same petition. 200,000. speaking out for the justice of the same Luangwa River. So what happened was the decision was finally reversed. The Zambian government put to stop the plans to build the proposed hydropower dam on the Luangwa River. This was a powerful decision for environmental justice. With the decision made to put the plan on hold, the poverty level of the local people was not worsened. So now, what is the connection between this environmental justice, which was upheld, with the environment? I'm going to quote the words which the Chief Lumbi, the local Chief Lumbi, commented with regard to the same dam. He said that he actually said that the communities would have been damaged. The communities would have been damaged. So he further said that the planned dam would have caused severe floods, disturbing communities, since the same Luangwa River is a source of money for the local people, such as fishing and agriculture, and it's also a wildlife area. So with this, environmental justice was actually put uphold within the midst of Zambian people. So I'm just going to play a very short video, which is less than 2 minutes, from WWF. So let's just listen to it and watch it about what happened of everything which I've alluded to you. I want you to watch and get some snapshot of it.
When you think of the Luangwa, right, you think of wildlife because it's wild and free and it supports a lot of wildlife with that. When you go on the ground throughout the Luangwa and you meet people and you see how real the Luangwa is to them, how much it means to them, you begin to appreciate the value of it. And one thing that really struck out is the way that people speak about the Luangwa. It's almost as if they're speaking about a human being. They have so much respect for it because of the way it behaves. It gets really full, really fast, and if he gets angry, he causes a lot of damage. If a dam was to be constructed on the Luangwa, it would definitely change the way the river system behaves. The river system, from it being dry and wet, creates an environment for nature and for people. So once that changes, it will then impact people's livelihoods, the environment, and the wildlife that depends on the oxbow lakes that the Luangwa leaves behind. So WWF's vision for the Luangwa River is to keep it healthy and maintain it as a free-flowing river. WWF, together with our partners, we are getting science attached to it and making a case for why and how the dam would impact so many people's lives. We can save the Luangwa. We should save the Luangwa. It will be saved for people and for nature.
Okay, so that's a short video from WWF Zambia concerning the environmental justice for the same river. So the same river, along with providing 25 chiefdoms with water, the same river also provide foods, as the video has highlighted, the livelihood for the community people. This is about the justice which was done along the Luangwa River. I'm also going to explain about the other justice, the environmental justice, which was upheld. This one, I'm going to concentrate on the Lower Zambezi National Park. So this is the Lower Zambezi National Park. Hope you are able to see it on my screen. Okay. So I'm going to start with a bit of an introduction about this park, just a brief of it. So the Lower Zambezi National Park is in southern Zambia, and we actually share it between you Zimbabwean guys and us. It is actually on the boundaries there. So what happened was in 2014, the government of Zambia actually approved for the construction of a mine in a national park. The construction of a mine in a national park. So now, this decision made different social groups to start condemning the act, to start fighting for the environmental justice, the justice for the environment. How can a mine, a copper mine, established within a national park? So civil society group described it as a national tragedy. So what happened was, after putting much pressure on the government through civil societies, organizations and NGOs, after putting that kind of pressure demanding for justice for this national park, what happened was the decision was reversed. The decision was reversed. Just imagine this decision, it was actually made and approved that the national park must be established. The national park must be established within, a mine must be established within the national park. So the decision was actually withheld. The decision was stopped because of the pressure and because of the Zambian people demanding for the same justice. And as I'm talking to you right now, there is no any mine which has been established at the same Lower Zambezi National Park. So now I'm going to elaborate more concerning about the law related on my next presentation. So for now, I'll stop from here, and thank you very much for the opportunity which I was given by our moderator. Thank you very much, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Launi. Thank you for your presentation. I'm really touched by the situation over there. We have also been having a problem whereby companies want to do extractive mining in national parks, So thank you so much for that. I am really touched by the situation of the river. I believe that civil societies, they are really the best at conservation. The local people, we have our religious beliefs, we have our traditional beliefs, cultural practices, and these really play a role, a crucial role in the successful conservation of the environment. Thank you so much. And you know what? Local people, they conserve the environment without any need for judicial restriction, but even they do so because they depend so much on what the environment can provide. You mentioned issues about the food. The river provides them with domestic water for their animals, for their domestic use. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm very touched by your presentation. So I don't know, Rufaro, Emmanuel, do you have anything from what Launi has discussed with us? You can go ahead and say something.
No, I think he elaborated it perfectly. I was also touched with the issue of mining companies wanting to do their extractive activities in national parks, which is a very concerning decision. So it seems like there is a really huge gap which needs to be addressed. Seems like most of the governments, African governments, desire to do or development activities or mining activities in national parks without respecting the national parks as areas that have been reserved for wildlife and biodiversity. So I think it's a huge area which needs attention.
I can add on.
Okay.
Keep the Luangwa River free falling. It was a good campaign. I was there to see the importance of the river. Because the Luangwa River is a free flowing river in Zambia. I think it's one of the longest rivers that we have in Africa. And if you had to see how people were excited about the campaign, you would surely see that despite others saying they needed the development to come there, they have people. I was really, really proud of being part of the campaign that we are able to voice. It was a very good campaign.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Manuel, can you go ahead and give us your presentation?
Yeah, hello everyone.
Manuel, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Hello? Are you getting me?
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you, Emmanuel.
Yes.
You can get me?
We are here.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here to present the link between poverty and the environment. Okay, so in a basically nutshell, in the Zambian perspective, we are really seeing the link physically, not just theoretically. So let me start with the definition of environment. So the environment is the source of air, water, and food. In an ecological perspective, we can say the environment is the absence, or we can say the. Hello?
Yes, Mr.
We can hear you, Emmanuel. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Yes, so I'm saying in an ecological perspective, we can say also that the environment is the source of basic need that we need. In this perspective, we can talk about the air, water, minerals, organisms, and all other external factors surrounding us and affecting a given organism. So for us to find the link between poverty and the environment, let me start first with the environment and how we can connect to the poverty parts. So we have heard from the definition that the environment gives us air, water, and minerals. So the absence of these necessities, the air, water, and minerals, leads to relative poverty. Hello? Okay.
Hello?
Yes. I don't know whether it was my network or the moderator's network. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about the environment. So we're saying the absence or the denial of these basic necessities, which is air, water, and food, leads to absolute poverty. Okay. So we find that in rural areas, when they have this absolute poverty, they tend to indulge themselves in activities that degrade the environment. In other cases, we can say that if there is unequal access to these fundamental necessities such as air, water, and minerals, it will lead to relative poverty. So from the Zambian perspective, I have a story about the Kawe mines. Kawe is a city in Zambia where we have a lot of mining activities also there. So there was some pollution which occurred about 20 years ago, some lead pollution, okay, which left the land degraded with a lot of lead. So you find that this land is not fertile for agriculture purposes. So the locals are not able to do a lot of agriculture activities on those lands which are already degraded with the lead. So you find that automatically from there they are being deprived the opportunity that the environment gives you through the fertile land and the fruits, because they're not able to farm certain products due to human activities. The other scenario we can talk about is the Mufulira Kankoyo pollution. So in Mufulira also we had a lot of pollution which is coming out from the mines. Here is that due to poverty, government decisions usually suppress the locals because they'll be interested in making a huge revenue. So a lot of mine activities are happening, and pollution automatically is the result of the mining. So the local people staying near the mines are being affected by the pollution coming out from the mines, which is sulfur dioxide. So you find that when people are not having a good access to free and healthy air, that's already
Hello? I think we have lost Mr. Chibuno. He's having with his connection. Okay, so
hello. I don't know whether it's network for the moderator or maybe network.
oh, it's that side. I think he's back. He's back.
So,
Yes.
okay, so I don't know whether they were getting me on the other part, so I have to bring it back a bit behind.
You were telling us about pollution.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the first story, let me elaborate more, is about the pollution which was happening in Kabwe. So Kabwe was ranked to be the 10th most polluted city in the world because of the lead pollution that happened about 20 years ago. So you find that the land in Kabwe became so polluted such that it was difficult for the locals to benefit from the good things that we get from the environment through agriculture. Okay. The other activity that happened in Zambia is about Mufulira. This area here is called Kankoyo. I'm not sure if I'm able to see the place. So in Kankoyo, there are a lot of mines surrounding the area. So, and there's a lot of pollution about sulfur dioxide being released to the atmosphere. So when you visit Kankoyo, you find that there are a lot of children and older people with breathing difficulties due to lung diseases that they get from breathing this sulfur dioxide. So them not having that good health brings poverty to them, because not having a good health, that's another type of poverty to them. So the environment affects poverty in several ways. Like it brings, through its providing of sources of livelihood to poor people, like those people who are living near the streams, they are so much involved into fishing. So if the river is polluted, automatically the fish there, the biodiversity there is affected, and the fisherman automatically won't put food on his table because he won't be able to harvest enough fish to supply to its customers. The other one, the way environment affects the poverty cycle is that it influences the vulnerability. In Zambia, we have an area called Chongwe, where you find a lot of deforestation. So people get involved in deforestation in order to survive. Like they will cut down trees to make charcoal, and then they will sell that charcoal, not because they want to, but as a way of survival, you understand? So in that line, it's like the environment gets degraded each and every day through deforestation. And poverty also affects the environment in several ways. Also, like in case of the African setup, like it forces our leaders to promote unsustainable development in order to stabilize their economy without considering the environment. I can give you an example on how a lot of African countries promote mining industry, extensive agriculture without following the adequate consequences of those activities. So by forcing poor people to degrade the environment, how does it force the poor people to degrade the environment? I can give you a case of people living in Kankoyo. People living in Kankoyo in Mufulira, where there's a lot of sulfur pollution from the mines, they are really, really suffering from this pollution happening in the city. So what are they going to do next in order for their survival? Automatically, this now brings us to other activities such as human wildlife conflict, because people now will tend to be poachers just in order to survive, because it's just like that now becomes the battle of, or maybe say the survival of the fittest. You see. So as Green Vision Zambia, our mission is building the next generation of leaders to conserve the environment. What do we do how do we promote our mission? We offer workshops, education training to small football clubs and small communities, teaching them about the importance of the environment, because we believe that if a young generation is empowered with the right knowledge about conservation, then the future will be in right hands. So I can pass it on to my next presenter, who will talk about the injustice.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for that insight. So I've some takeaway home points that I had from your presentation. You have encouraged us to empower the young people and teach them about conservation and how important it is for our survival. Because as it is, there's a lot of erosion of tradition affecting how we treat the environment. So there's need to go back and try to change the mindset of the young person and teach them how important our environment is, and even teach them how to speak out where there is environmental degradation, how to fight for their environmental rights. Basically, the situations are almost the same with what's happening here in Zimbabwe. We have problems with mines, we have problems with companies. We have a company in the city that manufactures cement here in Harare, where I am, and people are complaining of dust. They are saying we can't open our windows because there's so much dust. We miss fresh air, and people are grasping for air that side. And also the vegetation, there's the leaves are not green anymore, they are brown, and it's a very serious area of concern. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for that presentation, and I hope we have all learned so much from what he has said. So I'm going to leave this floor again to our presenters. If you have any insights, any contributions that you want to add. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chibusa Emmanuel, for that wonderful presentation. Yes, indeed, there is a very thin line between environment, and poverty. Because whatever we do, remember that we coexist. We are in the environment. So meaning that people, like community people who are economically disadvantaged, even actually rich people, they actually involve themselves in environmental degradation activities for them to have a source of income. By doing that, at the end of the day, we are actually degrading our environment. I can put an emphasis on the youths, especially those who come from a humble background. For them to have a source of income, they actually involve themselves in activities that degrade the environment. For example, here in Zambia, if we talk about Chongwe, the area which my colleague has explained, they involve themselves in deforestation. Deforestation as a source of income. For them to have a source of income, so they involve themselves in those activities. At the end of the day, they are degrading the environment. Even the rich, they also support the same system. So we are more like talking about a circle now. So by this, I can simply say that indeed there is a thin line between our environment and poverty. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Launi. Any addition?
Okay, just to add on to my presentation.
Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of Africa, the way we are doing the relationship or to try to link poverty and the environment, it also goes back to also the decision that our leaders make. For example, in Zambia, we have, due to the government promoting a lot of massive development in terms of infrastructure, roads and everything, little is done to conserve our wildlife, our natural resources. So it's a humble appeal to young Africans, young conservationists to speak out for the environment. Let it be a trend for us to guide our environment. Let it be a daily conversation with each and everyone where we talk about the environment. How is it connected to us? How we depend on it? Because allow me to use this code which I like using that we don't own the environment. We just borrow it from the future generation. So we are supposed to leave it in good shape for our future children, grandson, and everyone that's about to occupy this earth. And we're supposed to leave it in good shape. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Rufaro, do you have anything to say?
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for the presentation. I think it was very elaborative. Yes, I do agree that there is a thin line between poverty and environmental justice, where the poor people, they are more vulnerable to being exposed to environmental injustices. And I think they do not really have a voice to speak up about it, maybe because they don't have enough money or capacity to seek litigation against companies which are exposing them to the environmental injustices, because you don't see these injustices really happening in example suburbs which have people who have higher incomes. You see these industries which are really polluting, they are being situated in low, high density suburbs where people of low income reside in. So it is really a situation where you can say there is really a link between poverty and environmental justice. I'll elaborate further during my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruparo. Thank you, Emmanuel, for that presentation. Thank you so much. You have really touched me, and I hope everyone is getting what Emmanuel has said, and we can put it into practice. So I've also heard from Emmanuel's presentation that the decision makers, they need to include everyone. You know, access to information is access to environmental information. They need to engage the communities that live in close proximity with the environment. They need to ask them what should happen, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are affected the most. So if there's any industry that is going to be constructed that's going to affect them, that's going to affect the environmental rights, they need to know, they need to be involved. So thank you so much, Emmanuel. Right now, I'm going to give, I'm going to remind everyone, those who have just tuned in, kindly share your name, your organization, and where you are listening from. Thank you so much. I'm going to our lovely Rufaro. She's going to take us through. Thank you so much. I'm going to give this opportunity to Rufaro, and she's going to take us through the gender issue. Thank you so much.
My name is Rufaro Matsika. I'm a climate justice researcher at Advocates for Earth, and today I'll be presenting on the link between gender and environmental justice. So let me share my screen so that you can see the presentation. So I'll be presenting on gender and environmental justice. So in this presentation aims to give an overview of the linkages between gender and environmental justice and conservation. Justice, okay, thank you. As been explained earlier, environmental justice we can define it as the disproportionate exposure of environmental harms or hazards on the poor marginalized communities, and also the disproportionate access to environmental goods, benefits, and services by the poor as compared to those with higher incomes. So it is a multidimensional demand for a healthy environment for all, equal access to environmental goods, equal protection to environmental harms, equal access to environmental information, and also equal participation in environmental decision making. But however, due to gender power relations, their knowledge is often overlooked. Due to gender power relations, knowledge is often overlooked, and women are not counted as agents of change, making them more vulnerable to environmental justice. Then I'm going to first define what gender is and what gender equality is. There is a great misconception which often exists on the meanings of gender and gender equality. So before proceeding, it is important to outline the definitions of these terms in order to ensure a common understanding of what is meant when we speak of gender and gender equality. So gender basically refers to the social attributes and opportunities associated with being male and female. And these attributes, opportunities, and relationships are socially constructed, learned through socialization processes, and are changeable. A basic example of gender is society and culture has made it known that women are responsible for basic duties such as cooking, cleaning, and doing majority of the house chores. These are socially constructed roles. And for now, let's say, for example, when a man hears that a woman was saying, why should I be the one cooking in this house? That woman will basically be labeled as rebellious, disobedient, or a bad wife, basically. Why? Because of gender roles. Those genders have already been constructed. It is now normal that women are the ones who are supposed to do that, but is it really normal that women should do that? You as a man, you can also do those kind of activities. So when you speak of gender equality, it refers to the fair and equal access to opportunities by male and females without preferring one sex over the other. And in most societies, there are differences and inequalities between women and men. and responsibilities assigned, activities undertaken, and access to and control over resources, as well as decision-making opportunities. Unequal power relations between men and women lead to their differential access to environmental resources and opportunities for income diversification, entailing that environmental vulnerability and indeed security affect women and men differently. Then I'm going to look at the link between gender and environmental justices. So environmental changes or hazards affect us all, both men and women. But however, these changes affect the lives of men and women in different ways through existing gender dynamics, as I mentioned earlier, and inequalities. As indicated earlier, there is a thin line between poverty and environmental justice. According to research, 70% of the world's poor are women, and poverty makes people more vulnerable to environmental injustices. Like I mentioned, where industries are being located in areas where high density areas where there are people of low income, and those people, they don't really have the adaptive capacity to cope with those situations. Let's say the industry that Tanya was talking about, which manufactures cement and exposing people to dust and diseases which come with dust. Those people, they are already poor and they're now being exposed to dust. They don't really have the capacity to purchase equipment like ventilators and what so forth, which could be able to enable them to be able to adapt to the situation. So, as I was saying, women often are low-paid employees since discrimination in the workplace has been there and impacts on their employment promotion prospects. As much as we've been trying to address them, that situation is still there, and all these factors result in women's reduced incomes and ability to save and wealth. So varying roles within society can affect the coping strategies and choices women and men have available to them in becoming agents of change in sustainable development. An example is if right now, if it was to be announced that our next presidential candidate will be a female, the negativity that we receive from the general populace ranting that they cannot be led by a woman is a clear sign that patriarchy is still rampant in this country. When women aren't given equal opportunities in decision making, it makes them more vulnerable to environmental injustices. So it is only through the full and meaningful participation of both women and men that the pressing environmental issues of our time are confronted. Justice. Then women, as I mentioned earlier, tend to experience inequitable environmental burdens, which is often referred to as distributional injustices, and are also less likely than men to have control over environmental decisions, which is referred to as procedural injustice, and both of which impact on their health and referred to as substantive injustice. This includes the distribution of environmental goods such as energy, water, green space, as well as environmental burdens such as air pollution, toxic chemicals, and flood. It is argued that these injustices occur because women generally have lower incomes than men, as I have mentioned earlier. And if you look at female-headed households, they are more likely to be found in polluted and environmental degraded areas. Why? Because women already, as I mentioned, they often are exposed to, not exposed, they, in the workplace, they are the ones who get the lower incomes, and also because of poor emancipation, patriarchy, where sometimes women aren't being sent to school, they won't be able to really fend for themselves, so really they would only have really the income capacity to go and live in areas which less pollution free. So these female-headed households are likely to be found in polluted and environmentally degraded areas, and they're also more likely to be subject to indoor air pollution as a result of their cooking responsibilities and the use of solid fuel cookers. Where you see the injustice here is men, usually they leave the house, they go to work, and those females, they remain at home. They're the ones who are doing the cooking, whether they're using firewood and other polluting energy sources. They're the ones who are being exposed to that. And let's say the industry, which you were saying, which is emitting dust. Men, they live, they go to work. The women are the ones who are majority of the time they will be at home. Looking after the kids, majority of the time they'll be home, so they're the ones who are being exposed to that dust more compared to men. So that's where some of the injustice is. Sorry, I'm trying to move my slides, but it seems to be the situation. Okay. In general, women are less likely to have resources to adapt or to avoid environmental problems. And for example, they may not have able to afford to retrofit their homes, like get newer technologies to reduce the impacts of heat waves. So poverty reduces the ability to choose healthy working and living conditions, as there is little or no scope for rejecting the little that is available and affordable. In many developing societies, the traditional responsibilities of women and girls, such as growing food, collecting water and fuel, and serving as caregivers, ties them closely to available natural resource ecosystem. So several factors contribute to women's particular difficulties in addressing environmental challenges. This include insecure land and tenure rights, obstructed access to natural resource assets, limited participation in decision making, limited access to basic information, and lack of access to capital and markets. So climate change and its increasingly severe consequences such as drought, floods, extreme weather conditions, and food and water insecurity acutely impact the poorest populations, and it is women who are at the forefront of the challenges resulting from climate change. Example, you can see a picture there, it's a woman carrying water. Climate change results in a lot of different impacts. Water scarcity is one of them. When water becomes scarce, means women who are the ones who are responsible for the majority of the chores. You have to go and collect water longer distances, to be many kilometers away, making them exposed to heat waves, exposed to violence. It's either from wildlife or other unscrupulous people. So it's part of the injustices that they due to gender, because men aren't really responsible for collecting water or doing some of those chores such as collecting firewood. Then I'll also move to my next slide. So I'm going to speak of the roles of women in environmental conservation. So women play a very essential role in the management of natural resources, include soil, water, forests, and energy, and they often have a profound traditional and contemporary knowledge of the natural world around them, since they are the ones who have been doing the majority of the chores since historically. So they now know. So a lot of studies on women and the environment have shown that women are very close to nature and they're significant actors in natural resource management, and they are major contributors to environmental rehabilitation and conservation, since they know that their livelihoods really depend on the environment. They are better managers for natural resources, as they have sensitiveness towards environment and have high ecological consciousness. So natural resource depletion and environmental degradation is direct consequences to women's time, income, health, and social support system. Consequently, they are more likely to suffer from a degraded home, neighborhood, and the city environment. So women, through their role as farmers and collectors of water and firewood, have a close connection with their local environment, and women and children, as well as marginalized sections, are the prime victims of environmental degradation, especially times of natural disasters. Then women actively participate in environmental protection than men, as women directly affected and influenced by nature than men. Women, due to gender roles, work closely with the environment during water collection, as I mentioned earlier. And also, women can be better in terms of environmental conservation, because as women, they can help to control population explosion, which has been one of the major factors in environmental degradation. They're in the best position to make maximum contribution in family planning than men. because reduced birth rates equals to reduced population growth, and reduced population growth results in reduced pressure on resources. And when pressure on resources is reduced, it means also environmental degradation will also be lower. So women have always played a critical role in meeting household and community energy needs. Inadequate energy sources and the lack of access to efficient technologies of energy utilization force the people to depend on their own labor, animal power, and biomass energy to meet their daily requirements. So with adequate environmental education and awareness, women have the better position or can play and can conserve energy resources far more efficiently as compared to men. So since men are the prospective users of the facilities, it is necessary to consider their views in planning to save the environment and implement projects for the same. So that since we've been speaking about women, I will also say that all genders matter. Sometimes when programs talk about gender, it almost sometimes seems like it's synonymous that the word gender means women. But no, when you speak of gender equality, we're not speaking of to favor women as many perceive, but we're trying to reach equality where men and women are given equal and equitable fair opportunities without discrimination based on gender orientation. When you speak of equitability, we're trying to address challenges based on need. So when we say women are being affected more than men, we're just trying to say maybe more consideration should be given to them, but we're not basically saying that we have to ignore men because all of us are being affected by environmental injustices and climate change. So it's crucial for both genders to continue to play a role, and like in many of these traditional cultures where agendas on the table and look if lending in ear to listen how both are being affected, then we can work out a plan which can address both genders' needs. So when being asked whether a woman will be a better conservationist than a man if given more power, the answer will be women and men both have the potential to be amazing conservationists. Our job is to ensure that both have the ability to be the best conservationists possible. So gender equality is achieved when women and men, both boys and girls, have equal rights, life prospects and opportunities, and power to shape their own lives and contribute to society. At the very least, preparations must be made to reduce the potential impact of environmental injustice on women and other vulnerable groups. So, in conclusion, recommendations. I'll say maybe we should try to leverage and spread information about financing for women since they're more vulnerable who are doing environmental work, creating an enabling environment for women's entrepreneurship by giving access to financing in commercial markets, which help to spur work on gender environment. We also use targeted approaches that address all gender-specific interests, vulnerabilities, and needs. So policies and interventions should take gender action plans in all environmental organizations and ensure that gender action plans are used in dialogue with other donors. Also involve women in the transfer of environmentally sound technologies. End of my presentation. Thank you.
So much, Bufaro. Thank you so much for that great presentation. So, Bufaro has taken us through the gender and conservation presentation, and she said that we must get rid of structural differences within the society. We have to look at with an equal eye, because both men and women have a crucial role to play in conservation, and we are both affected by environmental injustice. So thank you so much, Rufaro, for that great presentation. And I'm going to leave this floor to Launi and Emmanuel. Do you have any contributions that you want to make so that we can give the floor to our participants so that they can ask questions? Also, you can ask your questions in the chat box of the particular panelist you are giving your question to. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Rufaro, for the wonderful presentation. Regarding gender and environment, I concur with you, Rufaro. It's actually women who are actually affected by the environmental injustice which are happening in our communities. For example, let's imagine like in villages where people draw water from far away streams. It's actually women who are involved in fetching for water far away in the field, in the forest, looking for the same water. And then it's actually women who are actually involved, direct interacting with the ground and everything else, which is related to the environmental justice. As us men, as you have highlighted, we usually go to the and everything else. So now, in your conclusion, as you said, indeed there is a need of everyone to participate in the fight for the environmental justice, not just for the women to be affected alone. Even us men, we must also try and help our friends, our women. So at the end of the day, they are not the only ones who are affected by the same environmental justice which is currently happening in our communities. So that is my brief addition to the presentation. Thank you.
Only for that. Is any more to make?
That was a powerful presentation. I really learned a lot. Now, it's it's a big discussion when it comes to justice, environmental justice with women here and there. But it's good that we need to promote our women in terms of conservation and involving them to protecting our wildlife and natural resources. So that there are other areas which would require, for example, say here in Zambia, we have game rangers who are female. So they would go there in the national park to protect our wildlife from poachers. Other women see it to be a very dangerous job to protect the wildlife going in the field, but we have females in the army, and that's almost a similar job. So we need to promote them to go in each and every field and promote equality into conserving our wildlife and natural resources. Thank you.
I think we have run out of time. So for now, we can give our participants the time to ask questions and make contributions. Kindly unmute yourself if you want to make a contribution or raise your hand, and then you can go ahead and say your contribution or ask your questions. Thank you.
Hello, moderator. Can I add something?
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you so much for the presenters, our panelists, the one who was giving the presentation. They did a phenomenal job. So, as a reintroduction of myself, my name is Quincy Jones Nemba. I'm one of the founding board members of Green Vision Zambia. And I'm also an expert in human rights law. I have an LLB from the University of Zambia. So I'd like to add from what was being said about the thin line between poverty and as well as environmental decision making, as well as injustice. So as a way of an example, there's a case here in Zambia. It's a very famous case in human rights law. It's called Felice Nyasuru and others. This is Konkora Copper Mines. And Konkora Copper Mines is one of the giant mining companies in the Republic and contributes a huge amount of taxes and mineral royalties to the Zambian revenue coffers. So the case of Nyasuru and others versus KCM actually borders both on the injustice and environmental injustice as well as how it's linked to poverty as a result of that environmental injustice. So KCM is a company actually, is a consortium of mining companies here in Zambia, but this case particularly happened on the copper belt in Kitwe, where the mining giant sometime back in 2007 was discharging its mining affluents into Kafue River. And this was a huge source of livelihood to the settlers there. So what actually transpired is that the mining giant had actually employed an ill-skilled environmental expert who was not actually educated in environmental protection. So instead of adding lime to the affluent, which was being discharged into the river, it did not. So a lot of people actually suffered a lot of water-related problems, health. They suffered some health difficulties. So as a result, they sued the mining giant. So as a result of that affluent, many people, farming activities were actually hampered, and there was extreme poverty. And I myself, apart from that, experienced some very bad toxic affluence in terms of a gas which was coming from the mining areas there. Some people had to even be hospitalized. So the point is, after those affluents were being discharged in the river, a lot of people could not farm properly because the water was extremely contaminated with toxic affluents from the mine. So that was extreme environmental injustice, and which caused a lot of poverty. Regardless, the same case on the other side also presents the environmental justice after the case was taken to court, and then the court there actually found the mining giants, who are the defendants, to have extreme negligence because they owed the duty of care to the settlers there to think about their livelihood, and they actually committed some offences under what was called the Environmental Protection and Pollution Control Act in Zambia, Chapter 204 of the laws of Zambia. And they were fined punitive damages, as well as those settlers were compensated, the plaintiffs, 4 million kwacha each, and 1 million extra as punitive damage. So it actually, although the case came long overdue, was decided long overdue, but we can see that there was some environmental justice. At least those people were compensated for the damage which was caused. But all in all, as a summary of what I'm trying to say, I think there's also a need for our leaders to make proper policies and decisions. For example, to make sure that they come up with laws which compels these mining giants to invest in cleaner technologies which reduce the amount of pollution being emitted from the mining area, so as to also serve the interest of the people around the communities in which the mining activities are done, in as much as they are trying to balance between the economy and the livelihoods of people, but there must be environmental justice saved as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Quincy Jones Mumba, for your much effort. At least your cover they are doing it. We see the pays people in action, the polluters paid compensation in damage. Mining companies, they have to invest in cleaner technology. So thank you so much for that side. We also have Eric. Please go ahead and make your contribution open.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Eric Tafmanichkaya. I am a research assistant at the Environmental Policy Research and Advocacy Center at Arupe Jesuit University. Basically, what I've noted from the discussion is our discussion on environmental decision making. One thing that I am happy that we didn't forget to talk about is the issue that environmental decision making is permeated by the issue of economic interest. And you find that people who are on the receiving end, when it comes to economic interest, are people who are living in the margins of the society. Most of these guys who are actually poor, okay, I don't want to use the word poor, let me use the word people living in the margins of the society. Their economic interest versus the economic interest of the people that we look forward to, who are in policy making. There's a conflict of interest there. I think my brother from Zambia gave a very good example of Luangwa River. I've been to Luangwa River on my way to Malawi. It's a beautiful place. And the people who are around that area, I think as it extends to Katondwe Hospital, Katondwe Mission, they have their own interests at heart when they look at that route. But multinational companies vis-a-vis the government, the politicians, they also have their interests. So I think somewhere where we need to draw much on, especially people who are involved in social justice and economic justice, is to do with the purity of intention in terms of economic interest. Because when there is no purity of intention in terms of economic interest of the decision makers, that's when we are having issues of the level of suffering is actually becoming more and more, it's increasing at an alarming rate. We can mention just but a few here in Zimbabwe examples where economic interest of a few of very few people who have taken their economic interest over the interest of the public or the interest of people who are living within the area of context, making decisions that have actually made life very difficult for the general population. I'm talking about token cost dam. You know what is happening down there, token cost dam. We don't want to get into details. The interest of the public, yes, was having water supply, thinking of, I also happen to come from Ngundu. We had meetings and we all agreeing that, no, when the dam comes, then we want to do this. But then comes someone who wants to erect lodges, we want to build lodges, we want to build a small sanctuary. I don't know what they want to do. They want to build these resort areas. Then you have people now suffering from the interest of one small group of people. So the act of balancing the economic interest of the decision makers, who also happen not to be exercising subsidiarity over the people who are within the contested area, is an area that we really need to actually fight, especially those who are more into economic justice or social justice. Thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much, Eric, for your contribution. Thank you so much. I don't know if there are any contributions or questions. We have Roderick Moyo. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. So part of what I was hearing is what the other guys have spoken to. Placing interest more than profit, more than the people and the environment. So my issue was that as much as in Zimbabwe we might be complaining that our legal architecture is not comprehensive to ensure that environmental justice is reached. Because environmental justice, for me, we are looking at justice, the environment in the terms of the social, economic, and political. Once we fail to balance those, it will be difficult for environmental justice. So I think what we are supposed to do now is to ensure that the environmental impact assessment that we have for us to retain environmental justice, communities are capacitated and they are able to effectively participate. I don't know what instrument we can propose, especially to the government of Zimbabwe, most to say, so that we ensure that communities, when it is public participation, communities participate, because of late we only see those consultants, they just consult a few and the project that has that big impact happen. Then lastly, with regards to mining and protected areas, I think the other issue that we have to look at is the issues of land use. Is the land use still viable? Because I'm hearing, remember that most of the parks that we have, especially the parks that were established during the colonial era, rumors are saying that some of them were actually reserves of minerals that were established in the disguise of parks. So I'm hearing that they are now finding that information that our colleagues, actually where we are saying the park, that's a reserve of a mineral. What then should government do, and how do we ensure that wildlife and let the communities benefit, while maybe we seek another activity in the area. Yeah, that will be my contribution. Then the last thing will be, for example, in wildlife areas, where we look at our campfire, how do we make it effective again? Because for effective conservation, for effective environmental justice, communities should benefit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roderick. So I think our panelists, you have heard his questions about mining in national parks. He was asking what do we have to do in a situation like that, and how can we involve the communities through community projects like the campfire he had mentioned about. I'm not sure what community projects that they have that side in Zambia, but yeah, that's basically it. He's saying how can we involve the communities, and how can we ensure that what do we do with the situation of mining in areas where there's wildlife. So can we address those questions?
I think when it comes to mining companies, the government, or whatever, I think the issue of accountability and transparency is very critical. When mining companies, like, they prospect, they want to start a mine in a certain community, they promise the community lots of things, be it employment, education, improved standards of living, building of schools, hospitals. But when the actual mining starts or begins, nothing like that happens. Like, actually, when you're expecting a community to actually get better developed because minerals are being mined in that area, I think the opposite is actually happening. They are getting poorer, more degraded, getting unsightly. By the time that those minerals are exhausted, those areas will be left as ghost towns with nothing. So I think it's an issue of the mining companies, whether it's the government or their non-governmental companies. They need to be more accountable. They need to practice more corporate social responsibilities. When you start a mine in a community, I think it is proper to just involve them, whether it's giving them jobs or bettering the schools or infrastructure. That was the infrastructure development. But what you actually see on the ground is when companies go to start their mines, they employ their own people from the city there, where they have other opportunities, or there's a lot of nepotism. It's about now who you know, not about wanting to also involve the community. So I think that's an area that really needs attention to in terms of transparency, accountability, and practicing corporate social responsibility. Like, really doing it, not just doing it for the paper or for the press. And also, when Roderick mentioned about mining in national parks, I heard him mention something like these wildlife reserve areas were actually, or it is being insinuated that they're actually mineral reserves. So I don't know how we can deal with that now that animals are there. Biodiversity is there now, is being conserved there. Some of the species you find there cannot be found all over here in the city, where urbanization has occurred, a lot of deforestation has occurred. Some of the species that you actually want to see, we find in them. So when you start initiating mining activities in that area, it means all that biodiversity is going to get lost. That area is being reserved for animals. Unless you're going to have to find another area to put those animals and also translocate those species of plants, I think nothing can be done. You have to find other sources of minerals. Why they target the places where wildlife has been reserved? Because animals also have rights. If you're going to start mining in those in those wildlife national parks, the human wildlife conflict is going to become worse. It's already happening. It's going to get worse because habitat is going to get destroyed. Those animals are going to want to have somewhere to live, so they're going to encroach into human settlements, and human wildlife conflict is going to increase. I think I will leave it to other guest speakers to add more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rufaro. Thank you. Yes, I will leave it to Launi and Emmanuel if you have any additions.
All right. Thank you very much, Rufalo. She has explained a lot of things. So for me, I'm going to explain mine on a part of the education. In terms of those economic activities that the governments and those people in power are proposing to or are planning to be established in those reserved areas. I feel it is our duty as people who have got this knowledge about the environment to also educate our fellow youths and the other community people. You know, I believe that whatever we do as human beings, it is as a result of what is in our mind. So if local people, they don't know the impact of certain economic projects that are happening in our communities, their thinking might be just for the economic gain, but without knowing that the ripple effect of that economic activity, they will actually be affected. They will be affected dearly. They will, even their children, they'll be affected. So mean that there won't be that kind of a sustainable development. So meaning that educating the communities is also very important. Educating them about the environment, so that they can engage. They can engage between economic development and the environment. Is the economic development which is being established, is it sustainable to us? If it's not, what is our reaction? What must we react? So they must have that necessary knowledge for them to react as you are protecting the environment and seeking for the environmental justice in those areas that are reserved for not only for us but even for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know if Emmanuel has any additions.
No, I don't have any contributions. Just enjoying the conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I think if we don't have any more questions, we can close the meeting. I don't know if there are any burning questions. Roderick.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the colleagues who have responded. So I think it's now incumbent upon us as young people to educate ourselves, especially look at the extractive industry. Mining is the main contributor to these injustices of the environment and communities. Let's know our extractive industry transparency initiative and also advocate for those instruments to be implemented here in Zimbabwe and across Africa, so that communities will even start to benefit. And also drivers like artisanal small-scale mining, more young people. Look at Mazoe River, it's young people who are involved in that area. Why don't we collectively advocate maybe for formalization of artisanal small-scale mining, so that maybe those young people are removed in those riverbeds and they are placed at better places, and also economic policies that then can reduce that pressure to go to the environment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Roderick, for your contribution. So, yeah, Roderick is saying we should encourage young people to participate more. We should teach them, and so that we can achieve our aim. There's also Tinai who is saying, thank you so much for the needed discussion. We need to have more discussion on the ties of social and environmental justice as well as the gender. Thank you so much, guys. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our participants who have joined us today. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining us. I would also like to thank Green Vision Zambia. Thank you so much, guys, for the collaboration. We hope to do more with you, and hopefully next time we can meet and do a physical workshop where we can teach people more on environmental issues and discuss, so that we can come up with solutions that we can take ahead to our policymakers, and we can fight for better environmental justice. Thank you so much. Great presentation on gender. Thank you. Yeah, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you so much. I would like also to say we are going to send the presentations. I'm going to get the PowerPoint presentation from our panelists, and then we can share with them to you on your emails. And also kindly go on our website and follow us and see the work that we are doing. For Green Vision Zambia, you can go on their website, www.greenvisionzambia.org, and you can see their work. They are also on Facebook. You can follow them on social media, Green Vision Zambia. You can also follow us, Advocates for Earth, at advocatesforearth.org. And also you can check out our website and see the work that we are doing. Thank you so much, guys. I don't know if Laoni and Emmanuel have anything to say before we close.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tanya. It has been a wonderful collaboration. You guys from Zimbabwe and us Zambia here. Indeed, we are actually connected as one under the umbrella of the concept environment. And we have shared very, very cardinal important points concerning the environment for the enhancement of our minds, as we are actually portraying whatever we have in our minds through our behavior. I've actually benefited from our presenter, and also thank you very much for the other people who have joined us. It's really an opportunity for you guys to spend your time and to support us in this manner. We say thank you, and we are also looking further for further collaborations again, because this is just the beginning, right, Tanya?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
I agree with.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, so as our moderator highlighted, you can find out more about Green Vision Zambia on our website, as well as our Facebook page, as well as Advocate for Earth, which is a very powerful organization there in Zimbabwe. So you can also know more about it through their website and Facebook page. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you very much, our moderator.
Thank you so much.